Great event. Good morning. Good morning. I am Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, serving in co-ministry leadership here with Kirsten Hunter, our Director of Lifespan Ministry, and in shared ministry with all of you. It's great to be here this morning. I still feel the energy of yesterday's wedding in the space. Literal bubbles and just bubbly joy everywhere as Jen, our Director of Children and Family Ministries, and Tom Barry got married. So that was wonderful. Yay. But here we are this morning. I want to welcome you to this place of connection and inspiration, a place to take a breath, lay down what you're carrying, and maybe pick up a fresh perspective, a place to bring all of who you are and all of what you care about, and find others who care about those things too. This summer, we are exploring the theme of fresh air. I like to think of summer services as a chance to try some things and experiment with different kinds of worship, and today, we get to take some literal fresh breaths as we explore songs from our hymnal, the ones we love and the ones we are learning to love. What they can mean, how they can help us live those values, help us live lives that reflect the values we hold most dear. One of the ways we live our collective UU values is to begin our services by acknowledging a reality, which is that the land upon which this sanctuary was built was once the territory of the Wabanaki and Pennacook nations. And like so many Native people in this country, they did not cede this land and are people for whom true justice and self-determination remain elusive. May we make room for this truth to live in fresh ways in our hearts, lead us to ask fresh questions, and imagine how to take fresh action on those collective UU values toward restorative justice and renewal. I invite you to take a look at your order of service, which lists all the wonderful people involved in making our service happen today, including here with me, our worship associate, Ray Strand, as well as Susan Adams, who will be playing the piano, and Johnny Pfeiffer and the South Church Choir. Kirsten Hunter will be offering our time for all ages. And the chancel flowers are a reflection of that joyful wedding yesterday. Those were here for Jen and Tom's wedding. And there is, as always, a whole crew behind the scenes who make worship possible every week. Please note that after the children's story, all young people are invited to attend our religious education classes downstairs. Just follow Kirsten, who will lead you down the aisle. And everyone of every age is invited to join us in the fellowship hall downstairs after service. No, outside on this gorgeous day for coffee, treats, and conversation. Please note we do have assistive listening devices and large print hymnals in the back. Please ask an usher if you need assistance. Please silence your cell phone if you have one, and it is now time for some announcements.
Good morning. I am Kirsten Hunter. It is lovely to see all of you this morning. I have just a few announcements, and one of them is just to make sure that you heard. You will notice our choir this morning is singing with masks on. A member of our choir tested positive for COVID, and so I wanted to let you know a few things about that. One is that we have an ongoing policy here at South Church to try to continue to remain safe as a community, and so when we got that news, the choir have all tested, and they're wearing masks as a precaution in case anybody had caught COVID from them. But I also just wanted to lift up that COVID has been on the rise in the seacoast, and so to be mindful. And if you are noticing symptoms, please test before you come to church, and feel free to let us know if you're not sure how to handle a particular situation related to COVID. We continue to live with COVID in our lives and prioritize keeping our whole communities as safe as possible in that context. The announcements I have are in here, so if you are wanting to remember them, just take your order of service home with you. But one you'll need to act on today. I believe today is the last day that the Pocket Garden Tour folks are selling blooms during social hour. This is a great way to support our biggest fundraiser here at South Church, which is also an incredible community event. My favorite things accomplish more than one task, and the Pocket Garden Tour hits 1 million of them. It lifts up beautiful gardens, it's joyful, it's outdoors, and people get to interact with each other. So please consider supporting them by purchasing a bloom during social hour today. And the other thing I'd love to lift up is Ellen and I have invited the South Church Spiritual Book Group to an all-church read that we will be hosting in September. They have one coming up in August. If you've read Everything is Illuminated, there's a discussion coming up this week, August 9th. And then September 13th, we will be having a discussion about the book Rooted, Life at the Crossroads of Science, Nature, and Spirit by Lyanda Lynn Haupt, who is an Indigenous woman. It's an excellent book. I have read it already, and I look forward to talking with all of you and with Reverend Ellen about that. So pick it up or borrow it from the library if you haven't already. Thanks so much.
Our chalice will be lit this morning by Reverend Ellen with words from William Shakespeare. Orpheus with his lute made trees, and the mountain tops that freeze bow themselves when he did sing. To his music plants and flowers ever sprung, as sun and showers there had made a lasting spring. If you would all rise and join me in reciting the mission statement printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. If being radical is grasping from the root, that's just what I'll do. That's just what I'll do. If being radical is grasping from the root, that's just what I'll do. That's just what I'll do. If being radical is grasping from the root, that's just what I'll do. That's just what I'll do. Thank you. And thank you to rap artist and city commissioner of Athens, Georgia, Dr. Mariah Parker, for those words put to music from Angela Davis. When I was growing up, I really liked this artist. Her name is Kesha. Some of you might have heard of her. TikTok. Yes. She wrote songs about glitter and being chaotic, which is what more can you ask for at age 10? The big issue is that everyone hated her for it, so I thought that I had to hate her too. I listened to her on my little red Sansa MP3 player. It had about half a gig of storage. I danced my little heart out to Kesha. When I was in my freshman year of college, news broke that Kesha had been in a huge legal battle with her producer. But because everyone thought she was superficial, few took her seriously. Then she released Praying, and the whole world started paying attention. It's a haunting song, deeply emotional, and stylistically unique. Most importantly, Kesha showed the world that she was talented and genuine. It was almost as if she had sat down at her piano, started to play, and said, "Fine, I'll show you." Then the floodgates opened. Whether or not Kesha intended it, the feminist movement saw a new change in direction. We spent so long trying to prove that women are just as capable as men, just as strong, just as powerful, that we denied ourselves the most basic need: empathy. No matter how close the wage gap got or how high the flames from our bras burned, we were still mocked by the rest of society. Facing a world intent on tearing us down, we showed them how it felt. Kesha started an avalanche of humanity. SZA hit the ground running with Doves in the Wind, soon after Mona Haydar's Hijabi, Hayley Kiyoko's She, and most recently Paris Paloma's Labor. Even Greta Gerwig's Barbie talks about the feminist paragraphs. Each of these works makes me feel like I'm diving headfirst into cool water. Each one reminds me that I am still strong, powerful, and independent even when I am hurt. At about the same age I started listening to Kesha, I was coming to church, and I heard a call and response done without instruction for the first time. Kathy Okeisen stood before the church, sang a couple bars, and gestured to the congregation. They sang it back. I didn't sing it back. I was confused by the whole thing. I just assumed this was something they taught you at some point in secret grown-up school for grown-ups, you know. When the congregation began singing, however, I got that same cool water feeling on my face. I had just tapped into a network of empathy that I hadn't previously known. That feeling of cold water on your face is what I wish for you in today's service. Please join me in hymn number 38, Morning Has Broken.
It's a magic morning. So I was walking down to church this morning and somehow timed it perfectly so that as I walked past St. Pat's, it's called something different, the Catholic Church, Immaculate Conception, as I walked past, their congregation was singing and it was coming out of the windows. And I continued on as I walked past Middle Street Baptist, their congregation was singing, it was coming out the windows. Then as I walked up to South Church, Kathy Okeisen was on the front steps chanting and it was going out across the parking lot across the street and people were watching. And then I walked inside the church and the choir was singing and I was like, holy cow. It was really beautiful. So I have a story to share, but the beauty continues related to this story. If there's anyone who would like to come further, closer up, you're welcome to. You can also stay right where you are. But before I tell the story, there was one more magical thing because this is a story based on a true story, and it is about the hymn, Morning Has Broken. But I didn't know that that was in the order of service right before the story was going to be told until this morning, and I went, whoa. Church is weird sometimes, the magic that happens in this place, and when we kind of concentrate on something. I don't know how many of you have noticed that, but it happens a lot, and it always kind of blows my mind. So with that, I have this story to share with you, and it is about a little girl who went to a UU fellowship. A fellowship is very much like a church, only it's called a fellowship. And some UU congregations have chosen to do that. Many of the UU churches that began in the 1970s began as fellowships as opposed to churches. And so this is a story about a little girl who went to a UU fellowship. And she loved going to her UU fellowship. She loved seeing her friends. She loved the activities they did. She loved playing chopsticks on a piano that was in the social hall of this congregation. And she especially loved the snacks at social hour, big surprise. But there was one thing that she didn't love so much, which was singing hymns. Not her favorite thing. Partly maybe because she was a little self-conscious about singing in front of people. It made her feel uncomfortable. And partly because she didn't always understand all the words, or she didn't exactly know the song, and so she felt sort of ill-prepared to sing. But whatever the reason, she really didn't like singing hymns, except for the song Morning Has Broken. When that song came, she loved it, and she sang with all her heart, and she wasn't self-conscious, and she loved what happened hearing everybody singing it together. It made this song that she loved even better. Now, there was an older woman in the congregation who knew this little girl. They were friends because she had volunteered in RE classes many times with her. Great way to meet kids, by the way. And this woman noticed, she knew that this little girl didn't like singing hymns, but she noticed on the morning that they were singing Morning Has Broken, that it was different, that she was really enjoying herself. And so as they were together at social hour, nibbling on cookies, the woman asked the little girl, what was different? How come you looked so much happier singing that hymn? And the little girl thought about it and she said, I don't know, I really like the words of that hymn. And maybe it's because my family always sings that hymn when we go watch the sunrise on Easter morning at the beach. But whenever I see that hymn in our order of service, I'm excited. I like singing it. And the older woman agreed and said, it's similar for me. The hymns that I love the most are ones that bring back other memories. They give me a feeling of comfort, and I kind of connect them to other experiences in my life. And she said, I also really enjoy what it feels like to sing with other people because it reminds me that we can do things together that we can't do by ourselves. And they both smiled at each other, and they kept eating their cookies. And the next Sunday at church, that little girl stood up for the hymn. It wasn't Morning Has Broken, but she looked over at the woman, and the woman looked back at her, and they smiled at each other, and they started to sing. So that's our story this morning, and I would invite anybody who wants to come outside and play with me on the front lawn.
It is now time for the offertory. Time for us to help support all the good work in the programs of this church. During the month of August, collections will be shared with the Wabanaki Reach and the Kawasuk Band of the Pennacook Abenaki. In addition to giving here in person or on our website, you can also download the new Vanco mobile app for free. The offering will now be gratefully received.
let us gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of prayer or meditation with these words from an unknown author. Spirit of life and love, give us a wider vision of the world. Give us a broader view of justice. Give us dreams of peace that are not defined by boundaries of geography or race or religion or by any limitations of our worldly structures and systems. Open our eyes and our ears, that wherever we go, we may hear a greater voice calling our name, calling us to serve, calling us to share, calling us to give thanks, so that we never give up on the promise where the world is transformed and everyone can enjoy life in all its fullness. Amen. As we prepare to begin our time of the meditative lighting of candles, I invite you to reflect on whatever it is that has your heart this morning. And to please remember, if you are going through a difficult time, I am here. Kirsten is here, as are our pastoral associates. If you need us, please fill out a card that's in your pew, or come find me or email me or one of us after the service. We are here for you. I now invite you to light a candle for a joy or a sorrow that is in you today. Music affects us in lots of different ways. It can, as Ray suggested, inspire us to dance, open our eyes, shake up beliefs, or remind us of something important, like that we can be strong even when we're hurting. And hymns can sometimes be hard to sing or have words we don't understand or may not be our personal favorite, as Kirsten suggested can happen in our Time for All Ages a few moments ago. How does music speak to you or not? What is your experience of singing hymns in church? What do you love about it or not love about it? When does it feel like something to just get through, and when does it feel like a network of empathy and cool water on your face? I've heard it said that sometimes the hymns we sing can stay with us far longer than the words of any sermon. And I've heard it said that sometimes it is in the singing of a hymn that the message of a service can finally begin to gel. And when the words and the music and the stars align, something magical can happen, but it doesn't always. One of the reasons I wanted to do a hymn sing this summer was to give us all a chance to pay a little extra attention to this important element of our worship services, to notice what we sing and how we sing it, to play, to learn, to try, to get familiar, to share in each other's joy around particular hymns, and in that way, maybe open up a little more ourselves. I love that image Kirsten shared of that little girl noticing her friend. Her friend was singing with all her heart, and maybe you will notice that in someone here today, maybe even in yourself. I want to thank all those who sent in hymns for this morning's service. I had asked you all to tell me why you loved it, and I was struck by how many of them were your favorite because they were familiar from childhood. And then hearing about Ray's childhood experience and remembering some of my own, it hit me. I think there is something powerful about the music we love as kids. For adults, it can be like a pathway back to something essential we really understood back then. Like a trail of breadcrumbs that lead back home or back to some wisdom or warmth in our hearts that can reorient us to whatever it is that's happening today. And there is one thing that is one thing that's different about hymns from popular music, as hymns are often written to also do that, to connect us with some deep, essential truth, to remind us and reorient us, to draw us out of whatever our particular focus is today and connect us with a wider reality. Like in this first hymn, which invites us to reconnect with the love which from our birth around us lies, as the hymn says. It reminds us of the wonder of the hills and vales and moon and stars. As we sing, I invite you to try to really take that in this moment, to let it into whatever is on your heart today, to let that wider vision in. Let us sing. Please remain seated for this hymn. It's number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For the beauty
I love how that hymn frames as accessible to us the beauty of nature at any time. And our next hymn, too, is a call back to our center, back to the common miracles of being alive on this earth, but not denying what's hard. Recognizing that even when times are painful, even when we're hurting, even then beauty is accessible to us. I invite us to sing together number 7, the Leaf Unfurling. I really noticed the first time I heard that hymn, how it ended on sort of an open note, expectant, not fully resolving note, which felt like an invitation to wonder what's coming next. These first 2 hymns grounded us in the timeless and natural. Our next 2 hymns are exploring more of the unknown, the unpredictable, the uncertainty of our days and where we are going. Much as nature is a source and inspiration, she is also hurting. We see that everywhere around us. You cannot avoid it on the news. While we might feel helpless about this or helpless about countless other challenges that we face personally or globally, there is something about singing together where we're reminded on a physical level that we are in it together. Both of these next songs were featured at our denominational General Assembly this past June, and I think it is because they are both so expressive of the times in which we find ourselves, and they invite us into faith that we will find the way, even if we don't yet know the way. I love how this first hymn, it's a combination of 2 songs, actually. It begins with just taking a breath as we witness what is around us and within us. It is a meditative hymn. It's called Meditation on Breathing. Today we will sing just the drone part, the breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, upon which will be layered the invitation to people, get ready. You will find the words in your order of service. And Johnny will say any other words that need to be said before we sing this combination tune.
We'll begin with the breathe in, breathe out drone. And we'll return to that in between each verse. We'll sing verse 1, then drone. Verse 2, drone, back to verse 1. More drone to end. You can stay with the breathe in, breathe out, or you can join us for any of the verses printed in your order of service.
Our next hymn, Woyaya, happens to be one of my personal favorites. I remember singing it in seminary. It is a wonderful, evocative hymn, and it talks about heaven knows where we're going, but we know within. It's also not an easy song to sing from the, oh, it is. We are going to sing it from the hymnal. It's fine to sing from the hymnal. We don't need it printed. It is in your teal hymnal, and it is number 1020. No? Yes, it's 1020. And it's called Woyaya, and we'll know within as we learn this song.
We
Woyaya, Woyaya, Woyaya.
Our first two hymns grounded us in nature. Our next two hymns acknowledged the times of change within we find ourselves. Now we come to what is at our center, what is at the center of our lives, which is us as humans, our humanity, our connectedness. What will ultimately get us through the challenges of our day, what will ultimately bring us to resolution of our conflicts or our divisions or our intractable problems, even with our climates, what will ultimately lead to real peace within and around us. Part of that is remembering, really remembering that we are all in this together. Every people of every nation are part of the picture. We need each other, all others, as so beautifully expressed in hymn number 159 in your gray hymnal. I love that beautiful, wide, global picture. And that grand vision is made possible in the details of our everyday as we make individual choices in individual relationships to be there for one another and to allow others to be there for us. Let us join together in singing Lean on Me, which is in your insert. to wrap it up, our closing hymn, a fan favorite of so many, Blue Boat Home, which connects the three themes of our service, grounded in the truth of beauty of our magical earth, our blue boat, sailing the starry seas toward the unknown, toward uncertainty, never knowing exactly which port where we'll land. And yet we journey together with our ship's companions, all we kindred souls. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together our closing hymn. It's also in your teal hymnal, and it's in your insert.
We extinguish, oh my goodness, I'm a little choked up, I'm sorry. Okay. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words are by Reverend Richard Gilbert. By our presence here with one another, hearing the harmony that is the music of the spheres, may some of the harshness and discord of our human lives be transmuted into music. A new song in our hearts may there be, and a new harmony in our beings, so that we shall return to our several duties with fresh courage, with fresh eagerness, and with rejoicing. Amen. Go in peace.
We will be singing Breaths, which is 1001 in the Teal hymnal. Feel free to just listen or follow along or join us if you like. Thank you.
For